The Sabbath day was strictly observed, and Saturday was actually the day when a lot of preparation was done. Shoes had to be polished Saturday night. Men would have shaved on Saturday night so they wouldn't have to do that on Sunday. And on Sunday itself, people would have walked from here in Ballyvea to Annalong Church. They belonged to the Annalong Presbyterian Church, and back again. And they did go back a little bit further. Before the Annalong Church was built, it was built in 1840, the first Irvines to live here, the lady who actually came from Balran, they belonged to Mourne Church, and she walked from here to the Mourne Presbyterian Church every Sunday, and when she was coming home she called up Balran to see her mother, and then she would come back, walk back here, so she had a big walk and for her service. Even in winter time, if it was a lot of snow, they would have had something. They would have been, if they had a piano in the house, there was one here. They would have been playing and singing hymns, and they would have read the Bible, and no games or anything like that, or football or anything like that would have been allowed. It was very, 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 very strict. And every night they would have read a chapter of the Bible before they went to bed. Right. Well, this is the pantry, or sometimes called scullery, in the Ballyvea Museum. Now, you'll notice it's very cold in here. That's deliberate. It faces the north. The sun never shines in here, and it's cold for a good reason. This is where the butter would have been made and stored. It's where the churning took place, where the milk stayed. And the things that you would nowadays put into your fridge, this was there, if you like, their natural fridge, just had absolutely depend on the cold. This is the good room, or sometimes just called the room, and this is in the Ballyvea Museum. Now, this room was very, very rarely used. It was only used on Christmas Day, or if there was a christening, or if the minister announced in church that he'd be visiting the Sabbath Hill Road in Ballyvea, then everything was ready and he was invited into the good room. Or if you had American relatives coming over sometimes in the summertime, then you'd try to impress them with the good room, and you'd have brought them in and entertained them to tea in the good room. Flooring, or sometimes called flowering, was done by the ladies in the house, usually at night time. They got the embroidery, we would call it embroidery today, and they would have got coloured threads and done little patterns, maybe made handkerchiefs, or sometimes even they went as far as doing cushion covers. And they really enjoyed doing it, and it passed the time away for them at night when there was nothing else to do. Rakers were a very common thing back in those days. Now, that's what we would nowadays call visitors. People were glad to see somebody coming in at night. There was no entertainment, there was no TV, there was no radio, and you were glad to see some neighbours coming in to tell you the latest gossip. And there was always one of them who was very good at telling stories, and particularly around Halloween times they'd be telling ghost stories and scaring the daylights out of the little children who probably would still have been sitting there for part of the conversation. And so when the children went to bed, they were imagining all sorts of things, and it was just a great to see somebody coming in, and it was a great way of spending the night around the fireside. Although our family were a religious family, they still had many superstitions. For example, they believed in the banshee, which was a sign, if you heard the banshee, it was a sign of death, very scary. They believed that the horseshoe should always be just turned upright, because if you turned it all the way around, your luck would fall out of it. They believed also on the fairy thorn, do not touch or cut the fairy thorn, very strict about that. And some of them would have been really scared, when really angry, if you had put up an umbrella in the house and thought that would bring bad luck.